tartlets are going to be made in a muffin tin, so you can hand one out to each one of your guests. Measuring spoons, measuring cups. You need a container with a lid for the flax meal to kind of whip it up. A pan, a rolling pin for the puff pastry, and you're going to mix it all up in a food processor. If you want to toast your nuts, dudes, you can put them in a pan and you can toast them before you turn them into tartlets. But also remember, you can use raw ones, so if you forget, it's okay. Cornstarch, minced ginger, flax meal, we're going to put a little water with it, some rice syrup, brown rice syrup, or you can use brown sugar. I mean, if that's what you've got, that's what you've got. This is my little salt container, and maple syrup. Pecans, you can use, these are raw pecans, or you can toast them. I'm going to toast them. Vanilla, soy milk, and this is your puff pastry. Keep your puff pastry box that it came in, unless you're really groovy and you make your own, and that will help you figure out exactly what temperature to put it at and how long to cook it. Okay, darlings, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to toast my pecans. Now, I turn this up, it's fairly high, and I'm just going to pour them in and shake them every couple of seconds. While I'm doing that, I'm going to start putting together my ingredients that I'm going to simmer over another heat. All right, dears, I'm flipping my pecans around, and in fact, they're fairly toasted, so I'm going to turn them off. But one thing I forgot to tell you to do, that I'm sure you already did, was to turn on your oven. On your puff pastry box, there will be probably a degree to put your oven to so that you can cook your puff pastry. That's what we're going to cook this at. So I don't cook it at whatever, if I found a pie filling degree, I cook it for the puff pastry. Okay, I'm just finishing up mincing my ginger. Well, here's the things that go into our pan. This is the maple syrup, which I put a little bit of oil, I just wiped it around so that the maple syrup would come out faster. And notice I didn't do it on brown rice syrup, so it's taking a little while. And it's a little gooky. But again, you can use brown sugar. If that's what you got, that's what you got. You know, LaDiva, I'm queen of substitutes. All right, so here is our vanilla, and here is our salt, which we're going to put in. Why do I have to mince the ginger if I'm going to put it in a blender? Well, when you have this much liquid, it will not mince up for you. So you'll get these big pieces of ginger, which is cool if you like big pieces of ginger. But if you're having a party and you don't know who's actually going to be there and whether they really love ginger or not, or whatever their deal is in life, make it palatable for most people. So I mince it up, and then I find that it actually does kind of chop enough, you know, it gets around enough, and maybe through the baking process it kind of breaks down enough. If you don't mince it, you can end up with chunks, and a lot of people may not like that. You want to simmer those ingredients in a pan, but make sure that it doesn't boil. You want them just to talk to each other. Take a little flour and put it on your nice flat surface. This is a little damp on this side, so I'm going to put that on the flour side. Now, start rolling it out. When you roll out puff pastry, you want to roll in a lot of different directions. You don't want to just do, you know, this one direction, that one direction, and you definitely want to go on the diagonals. Flip it a few times. My 5 minutes is up for the stuff in my pan, so now I'm going to add the rest of the ingredients into it, but I'm going to turn it off. And the first thing I'm going to put in my blender are the pecans. I like chopped up pecans. If you like whole pecans, go ahead and do that, but I like little chopped up pieces of pecans. So I am taking my flax seeds and I'm putting them with my soy milk and cornstarch. You can use arrowroot, but that's what I have in my neighborhood is cornstarch. So that's what I'm going to use. And I'm going to shake this up. Now I'm just going to whisk it a little so that it all mixes. Now I'm just going to pulse these to make them small, but not tiny, minuscule. This looks good to me. You want to cut this into 9 pieces. So divide it into thirds. and then divide it into thirds. And you know what? You can be a real stickler about making sure that all the corners are really perfect and everything, or you can just kind of go with the flow. I would not suggest using cupcake holders, those little paper things. I would suggest just a little bit of oil in here, just to oil up your muffin tin. Right, I forgot to put in one piece of equipment that you're going to need, and that's a bowl. So put your nuts into a bowl. Then you can put your liquid ingredients right into your food processor. So now here's all my liquid ingredients going into the food processor. You can do this in a blender. If that's what you got, that's what you got. Or if you have an immersion blender, you could do it with an immersion blender. You just want to really mix this well. Now we're going to pour the liquid over the dry, over your nuts. There you go. You can use date sugar, you can use whatever you want with the pecans to sweeten it up. And give it a stir. Now you see these are all not perfect, they're all different shapes and stuff. So after I swirl this around, I'm just going to pour it. This one actually got a little floppy. I'm going to take the puff pastry, okay? I'm squeezing this together because it's not perfect. And you want to make sure that it's closed. So I'm going to close this one. And then you're sort of making these into their own little things. But I like the fact that they kind of look weird. Maybe that's just me. But I kind of like the fact that they aren't perfect and that everybody gets their own. And it looks kind of interesting. I'm squeezing them semi-closed because I want to make sure that they do close up. Not totally, but you know, I don't want the whole thing totally open. And then you just glop this stuff in there. Again, not rocket science. And then you pop them in the oven for 20 minutes. You know what I am going to do? I am going to freeze that stuff because I'm realizing in a couple of weeks I have another party. So with what I have left, and if I made another batch of the nut mixture, I could have 2 puff pastries filled with that. I can make 2 sets of tarts, which would be very yummy and kind of quick and easy because some of it's already made. And I would be ready to rock. Other things you can do with that is you really can put just a little bit into your oatmeal. It tastes fantastic. You could put it on pancakes or waffles. Let's say you're going to have a holiday brunch. Or you can put it on top as a glaze for a cake. Remember, cakes freeze really, really well. So if you have a couple of events that you're going to, you could just make 3 or 4 cakes in one day, stick them in the freezer, and then pull them out like the morning before you're going to go to the thing, and you could pour that glaze right on top. It would taste fantastic. True gooiness has been attained. And you notice this guy over here? I just didn't have that one closed up enough. That's what happened with this. Okay, here's that really gloppy one. So I figured, you know, that one should be eaten first. Go. Make sure you serve these with a spoon because they can be very gooey. And this has been sitting for about 10 minutes. It's like a mini pecan pie. Oh, I saw a recipe where you add a vanilla cream sauce on top of this. That's just like overkill. The puff pastry is great. This is what I used to get it out of the pan. Just a great nutty flavor. Terrific. I love this. Simple. Yum.